Part 5 out of 10 is here as I count my way through Rolling Stone's broad, vast, and exhausting 200 greatest rap albums of all time list. This has been quite an eventful list so far in the first 4 parts. I'm splitting this entire list into 10 20 album segments. Following this video, we'll be halfway through the list, and things are going to get more and more interesting and more critical as we get closer to the top. Quick notes, this list does not just include albums, it includes mixtapes, compilations, soundtracks, etc. It may also come off at times as a blind reaction from my end. It's really not, because I've already seen these placements when I wrote the video script, and this is the first time I've actually talked about it, so it's pretty fresh and it's kind of a blind reaction, though not quite. There have been some exceptionally stupid picks so far. Hip-hop is very close to my heart. It's my favorite music genre. I have strong feelings about some of the low placements that a lot of classic albums have been given so far, particularly from the 90s. Let's hope we see a little bit less of this in part 5. Starting off this section of the list at number 120 is Young Thug's mixtape Barter 6. This is from 2015, and Thugger was a real force to be reckoned with on the mixtape circuit in the mid-2010s. I don't like the direction that his career has gone in lately. He just dropped a new album, and it's garbage, to be honest with you. But he did carve his reputation as a furious mixtape rapper back in those days. Barter 6, it's one of a handful of excellent mixtapes in his catalog. It's probably his best work. Thug really stood out at that time in a sea of generic southern hip-hop and trap. I would make kind of a loose argument for this to be included in the top 200. It probably doesn't make mine, but it's kind of an understandable pick that I don't actually take offense to. The Coup, the legendary Bay Area political hip-hop group led by the incredible Boots Riley. They come in at number 119 with their 2001 album Party Music. Couple thoughts about this one. I love seeing the Coup represented here. They are one of the most underrated groups in hip-hop history, but they have 2 better albums than this one. I'd love to have seen 1994's Genocide and Juice, or Steal This Album from 1998 on this list. Those are stronger records. I doubt we'll see either at this point. Do you really think Rolling Stone's going to put 2 albums by the Coup on this list? Party Music is a solid album. It probably makes my top 150 or top 200, but if Rolling Stone is going to include a Coup album, and they're probably going to include one, this isn't the one to include. I'm sorry. Interesting fact about this album, its original cover depicted the Twin Towers burning. The cover was created a few months before 9/11, and the album's release date was actually delayed because the Coup had to find a new cover for their record. It just so happens they had a picture of them simulating a bombing of the World Trade Center just 3 months before 9/11. Interesting little bit of hip-hop lore there. Number 118 is Tyler, the Creator's debut album mixtape from 2009, Bastard. This album, or mixtape, or whatever it is, sparked Odd Future's breakout. Tyler created this thing as like a 17-year-old in his bedroom, recording the whole thing and doing the beats himself. He speaks on issues like mental health. He gives kind of an intriguing perspective at times, but he's also just overall a vulgar teenager. He says some really transgressive things on here. It hasn't aged well for that reason. It's raw and it's attention grabbing, I'll give it that. The big takeaway from Bastard is that it started this movement. It really got Odd Future's foot in the door. It's the first recorded appearance of a lot of those guys, including Earl Sweatshirt. I used to spin the hell out of this thing when it was first released. I thought it was edgy, I thought it was really daring, but it hasn't aged well. I love Tyler. I love the trajectory his career has gone on since and how he's evolved into what he is today. This was a rough but eyebrow-raising and significant start. Would I put it in my top 200 though? Probably not quite. Under Construction by Missy Elliott from 2002 at number 117. 1997's Super Duper Fly is her best, followed by 2001's Missy, So Addictive. I do actually think we're going to see one of those 2 later on the list, but anyway, really everything Missy has done has been interesting from an artistic standpoint. She's always been a true performer and artist with a very unique style. This album isn't bad by any means, it's just not her best work. I think Work It has been played ad nauseum, though I do like the song Gossip Folks. This thing has a ton of nostalgia dating all the way back to middle school for me. Not in my top 200. It's a sensible pick though. I just hope we see at least one of those other albums that I mentioned. Jungle Brothers, Straight Out the Jungle, comes in at number 116. Now here's another case where I think we're definitely not going to see another album by this artist on the list, and this is not the Jungle Brothers album to include if you're going to pick one. This is a good album. It's a solid start to the Native Tongues movement and to their career, but their second album, 1989's Done by the Forces of Nature, is considerably better than this. I do believe this was the first Native Tongues record. Of course, that collective included A Tribe Called Quest, Queen Latifah, De La Soul, and a lot of the names in the Native Tongues collective got a lot bigger than the JBs, but the JBs were the one to start the movement, I think. They really kind of came in with hip-hop's golden age. This has great conscious subject material. The beats really really haven't aged so well though. Honestly, it sounds a little bit primitive. It still boasts the excellent song What's Going On. It's cool to see the Jungle Brothers recognized, don't get me wrong, but I'm afraid, once again, this is another example of Rolling Stone picking the wrong album. While I don't disagree with this placement, and this is another good placement in this section of the list, I would hope to see Done by the Forces of Nature as we get deeper into the list. Will we? Probably not. Okay, now this is already the 6th pick of this section of the list, and so far there has been nothing that I strongly disagree with. We are into rare territory. At number 115, Rolling Stone pays tribute to hip-hop originator Afrika Bambaataa with his 2001 compilation Looking for the Perfect Beat 1980 to 1985. This brings together the best work from the most notable leg of the Bronx-based pioneer's career, and while I think that's cool, I think compilations are kind of a cheat code. You're getting all the best songs from different albums together, and that doesn't really live up to the definition of an album or what this list is trying to be. I don't like the inclusion of any compilation on this list. Having said that, I do like the fact that they are celebrating one of hip-hop's earliest contributors, one of the most important contributors as the genre was first breaking out into the mainstream. Bambaataa brought a ton of electro and disco influence that was back in those days before Run DMC, when hip-hop kind of sounded like disco. It shows throughout this collection of songs. Look, I'll let the celebration of one of hip-hop's most important figures supersede the idea and define this pick, rather than focusing on Rolling Stone picking a compilation. Digital Underground's Sex Packets from 1990 at number 114, yet another appropriate pick. This is Digital Underground's most influential and arguably best work. I'd also make a case for their 1991 album Sons of the P, but Sex Packets was an incredible breakout that showed Shock G leading the group in a party-oriented funky direction. The Humpty Dance is the big song from here. It's the hit. It skyrocketed these guys into stardom, but don't overlook other fun, bouncy cuts like Do What You Like and the harder cut Underwater Rhymes remix. This is an upbeat, infectious album that shows hip-hop's humorous side very nicely, and I do think it belongs squarely in the 100 to 125 range. Wow, number 113. This is a surprise. It's Jay-Z's The Black Album already? I thought for sure we would see this in the top 50 at least. Critics love this record. I gotta be honest though, this is about where I'd put it too in the grand scheme of things. It's one of his best albums, though I have always thought Jay-Z's work was overrated. He's still one of the greats. I actually think it's his second best album, ahead of The Blueprint and behind Reasonable Doubt. We'll see both of those albums probably higher on this list, but this album shows him at perhaps his most proud and focused. It was supposed to be his last album. That obviously never happened. He never retired. It's still a complete effort driven by great beat selection, particularly on December 4th and Lucifer, which are two of Jay-Z's best songs. And as I said, lyrically, he's at the top of his game. But wow, I'm just shocked to see this outside of Rolling Stone's top 100. This album is a critical darling. Most of Jay-Z's work is, whether it deserves it or not. I think this one does. But you know what? I actually agree with a placement just outside the top 100. Interesting pick. What's going on here? Another pick I agree with. Layla's Wisdom by Rapsody at number 112. Yeah, that's about where I'd put this one too. Rapsody is an incredibly talented writer and MC who I've actually had the privilege of seeing live, and I think this is her finest work. She got a strong endorsement from Kendrick Lamar a couple years before this and was included on To Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick returns the favor here with a guest spot on the excellent track Power. The rest of the album is strong. It's consistent. This album has some huge guest appearances aside from Kendrick. She really does carry this thing well on its own, though she didn't need the guest appearances. Rapsody is a great rapper. Some of those songs with the guest appearances, which are in mostly the second half of the album, do bloat this thing's runtime. It's a little bit longer. I wish it was 10 minutes shorter. I think it's a little busy and dense, but I also think it's a great exhibition of her talents, which she has many. Her writing, her beat selection, Layla's Wisdom, it's just a remarkable modern day hip hop album. A good pick. Let's keep it going. Another pick I agree with at number 111. It's Boogie Down Productions' second album, 1988's By All Means Necessary. Following the death of his DJ and friend Scott LaRock after their seminal debut album 1987's Criminal Minded, KRS-One kept the BDP moniker intact and went on to drop 4 more excellent albums between 1988 and 1992. This one is probably the best BDP record post Scott LaRock. KRS mixes in these unorthodox reggaeton deliveries and really spits some conscious truth. My Philosophy is one of the most forward-thinking lyrical hip-hop songs of all time. This is a golden age staple to me. It's second only to Criminal Minded in what's an impressive but short catalog for Boogie Down Productions. Another strong 1988 New York album at number 110, it's Biz Markie's Going Off. The Drew's crew member had an awesome and lovable sense of humor that's on full display here on his debut. We see two of the golden age's most notable songs here, the excellent Vapors and also Nobody Between appreciates the biz off of this record. I do think that Going Off suffers from some weaker cuts, and for that reason, I'd probably put this closer to number 150 overall. It certainly does not belong in front of By All Means Necessary, I'll say that. But look, I'm just happy to see them giving Biz his flowers. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, and I believe he had already passed by the time this list came out. Going Off was an important Golden Age album that really hasn't aged quite as well as some others. So this placement, it's mostly okay with me, maybe actually a little bit high, but overall not a bad pick, and the streak somehow continues. Number 109, it's the 12th pick on this section of the list so far. It's the 6th album from hip-hop's Golden Age. Its main sources, Breaking Atoms, I have to say, another fairly well-placed album. I would probably personally put this 15 or 20 spots higher, somewhere around number 90. The Large Professor-led group's debut album showed the Large Professor showing his footing both as an MC and a producer. This was really the start of what would become a legendary career for Large Professor. And the album, of course, is best known for being the recording debut of Nas on the song Live at the Barbecue. Barbecue is a great cut, but there are so many other great songs on here that live in the shadow of Live at the Barbecue. You have Just Hanging Out, you have Just a Friendly Game of Baseball, and also Peace Is Not the Word to Play, but really most tracks on here are very, very solid. This album, it's conscious, it has excellent production, it's a late Golden Age classic. 109 just a little bit too low for me, but not that far off. Pusha T's Daytona at number 108. Some people, especially younger people, love this album and they put this way high, deep inside their top 25. I'd also, again, put it right about here, right on the fringes of my top 100. Kanye West does the beats, and while he's a disgusting human being, and I've been saying this for a long time before everybody else thought so, he does put forth an excellent production job here. We do have to give him credit. But it's Push who wins me over with his scathing wordplay and lyricism. This is among his best records. It might actually be his best. It's one of the stronger hip-hop albums of the 2010s, but it doesn't quite make my top 100, which means this is a really good pick at this stage. Yet again by Rolling Stone. What is happening? Now, yet another Golden Age entry at number 107. It's Kool G Rap and DJ Polo's second album, 1990's Wanted Dead or Alive. Kool G Rap for me is top 3 all time, and it was on this in 1989's Road to the Riches that he really evolved into the lyricist that he would become. He also really got extremely hardcore on this record after being more conscious on the duo's debut, with songs like Bad to the Bone and Death Wish standing out here, along with the chilling storytelling cut Streets of New York, which is one of the rawest songs from 1990. I love this record. Somehow I also almost completely agree with this placement, but once again, I really hope we see their other albums, Road to the Riches, and most importantly 1992's Live and Let Die, somewhere else on this list. I don't think Rolling Stone's going to include 2 Kool G Rap and DJ Polo albums. I think they're even going to snub his first solo album, 456, which is in my top 10 of all time. Again, if Rolling Stone picks one album by G Rap and Polo, this is not the one. This is not something I agree with, but I like seeing this on the fringes of the top 100, so I agree with the placement, but if we're picking one album by those guys, which is likely the case, this isn't it. At number 106, Old Dirty Bastard's debut solo album from 1995, Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version, comes in. I've been complaining about 90s classic hip-hop albums being underrated so far on this list, and believe it or not, I don't think that this album is out of place here. I don't think this is underrated at 106. This album is not as great as some people think. I love Wu-Tang, I love Dirty, but this album is a little bit too long, it's a little bit too weird for me to go into the top 100, and while I might get hate for this, it's how I feel. This just isn't that strong of an album. That said, it's a unique record with that insane, unorthodox style that Dirty exhibits on the mic and personality-wise, which is one of his big takeaways, but it does get old in larger doses. The big thing that makes this album awesome here is some of the grittiest, dustiest, grimiest RZA beats in existence, and there are many. It's a wild listen. I love the songs Brooklyn Zoo, Rawhide is an insane song, Cutting Heads is one of the best early Wu-Tang cuts. I think that song was recorded in like 92, 93 and didn't make it until this album, but I just don't love this album like some people do. I'd also put it somewhere between 100 and 125 on this list, so I like it at 106. Another solid pick. How? Alright, finally, some controversy. Finally, something I don't agree with. At number 105, it's Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book. This is a mixtape from 2016, and while Chance has had some real, true, bona fide garbage in his discography, this one is a little bit less offensive to me. However, it does live in the shadow of Acid Rap, which is a considerably better album, mixtape, whatever we're calling it. If you're going to include a Chance the Rapper album on a top 200 list, it should be Acid Rap. It makes me think we're going to see Acid Rap later on. 2 Chance the Rapper albums albums, mixtapes, projects is not acceptable. That guy is really not somebody I've ever been a fan of. I do appreciate how he's unique, how he mixes in kind of elements of gospel and soul on this thing, but really, it's not a project I enjoyed much at all. I mean, I even had trouble with acid rap, so I think you can probably understand how I feel about this pick. Coloring book, it's accessible, it's lush, but it doesn't belong on a top 200 list, let's be honest. It feels nice to have a pick I disagree with. I feel like that's what keeps this list interesting for you, the viewer, if I'm sitting here talking about how much I like everything. It's not very interesting. Let's keep it going with another pick that I'm really not a fan of at number 104. It's Eve's second album, Scorpion. I'll always have a soft spot for Eve. I was well aware of her as she was breaking out in the late 90s before she really hit it big with Rough Riders. She was pretty prominent on the airwaves in Philly, where I grew up and where she's from as well. Her feature on the Roots' You Got Me in 1999 was a massive moment for her, and it really seemed like she was a great role player and an excellent rapper, but I don't know, her solo career left me underwhelmed. She went in more of a mainstream direction. I really didn't like it. It hasn't really aged well. It was annoying back then. I do think that Scorpion is her best LP, but it's a little bit too poppy and accessible for me. She did bring that street edge with an aggressive delivery, but songs like Who's That Girl and Let Me Blow Your Mind, they've just been overplayed. I'm just tired of hearing them. They make this album annoying to me all these years later. It's an okay album. It's not bad, but it's not the 104th best hip-hop album ever. Alright, let's keep the controversy going. Here we go, man. This is what I live on. This is my lifeblood here. We got a stupid, ridiculous pick at number 103. Another 90s classic getting snubbed this time. And I can't believe I'm saying this already at this point in the list. It's Mos Def's Black on Both Sides. This is just as surprising as the Black album at number 113. This is a no questions asked top 50 hip-hop album of all time for me, if not top 40 or 35. Many people would put this in their top 10 or top 20. I would not, but 103? That's a stupid ass placement. Rolling Stone's back on track. I feel normal again. The universe can heal. This is an album that blazed so many trails in the conscious and indie hip-hop spaces in the late 90s. Mos was young and hungry here. He made tasteful, accessible songs like Miss Fat Booty, but also deeper, more abstract songs like Mathematics and Speed Law. Upbeat jams like Do It Now, and more lush, conscious, soul-leaning songs like Umi Says and Know That with Talib Kweli. This album is so sonically diverse. There's so many great beats from a lot of big names on here, and even though it's very long at 71 minutes, not a single track on this thing misses. This is one of the most consistent long hip-hop albums of all time. I hate long albums, but this one I make an exception for because it's just banger after banger after banger. How do you put this all the way up at number 103? That's just flat out wrong. And ahead of Black on Both Sides, we get Birdman's Rich Gang, the Tour Part 1 mixtape at 102. I don't think so. It's actually a fairly solid mixtape. It's one of the earlier high-profile projects in the modern trap subgenre, but this isn't on the verge of the top 100, maybe right around number 200, especially considering what the last pick was here. It was a pretty influential mixtape. As I said, it showed early prowess from both Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan, but it's like 85 minutes long. Who's listening to that? It's kind of generic. I don't think it's aged so well. I just don't see how you can put it at 102. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Punt this down 75 or 80 spots and move Mos Def's Black on Both Sides up 75 or 80 spots, and now we're talking. Final entry for this section. Rolling Stone surely did this to be cheeky. Young Jeezy's Let's Get It Thug Motivation 101 at number 101. This album absolutely belongs in the top 200. I don't think it belongs at 101 though. I think it belongs more in the 150 to 175 range. While Rich Gang really helped shape that more modern side of trap, Jeezy is one of the godfathers of what I'll call OG trap. This album really laid a ton of groundwork for the future. He had a young, hungry hustler's mentality while also marrying this with accessible moments. He did that quite well. I love the song Trap or Die with Bun B, but this thing has another obnoxious runtime at 77 minutes. It was, however, a template in what Southern hip-hop became in the years following this, for better or for worse. Jeezy's charisma and beat selection are the cherry on top that make this thing a special album. While it shouldn't be number 101, it does belong in the top 200. Alright, despite some really dumb picks at the end of this thing, this 20 album section of the list was remarkably strong, and I agree with a majority of the picks here. That's crazy considering how this list has gone so far. far. A lot of strong but not quite era-defining golden age hip-hop albums on here. My deep hip-hop head viewers, how do you feel about numbers 120 to 101? Even if you're not a huge old school hip-hop fan, what do you think of this? What are your thoughts on some of these placements? Comment below, let's discuss. And next up, we're moving into the second half of this list already. Hope you'll join me. See you guys in a little while.